Good afternoon, everyone. We will now like to start this session. Can I just ask if you, those that are still standing, please do take a seat. There are still seats around the room, so please find a spare seat. I'd like to start this afternoon by opening remarks, and we'll start with Prime Minister Støre of Norway. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker and Mr. Secretary. It was a great thing last COP. We launched the Green Shipping Initiative, and now we are here and taking stock, and I think this is a reason to say that we can achieve great results by common initiatives. My feeling is that there are moderate expectations for this COP. That is a good point of departure because we can surprise on the upside. And on shipping, I believe that we are doing that. We had the milestone agreement at the IMO earlier this year in July, when there was an ambitious climate strategy adopted. Ambition to reach net zero by 2050 in the shipping industry is of momentous importance if we can follow up and deliver, and that is our ambition. And I also believe that these achievements really serve as an inspiration for this COP. We should bring it into every room where we negotiate to demonstrate that the private, public and setting targets really works. So the momentum is there. Speaking for Norway, my message is clear. We will do what we can to execute leadership on green shipping at home, along our coast, with our shipping industry. At the international arena, especially through IMO, and through our support to emerging economies to ensure that all can take transition to zero emission shipping. Not least to start with zero emission and not go through, they can leapfrog and not go through the most polluting stages. At home, our recipe is to require, stimulate, support and cooperate to achieve emission reductions. We now have 200 low and zero emission vessels already in operations. There are many fjords in Norway, and many of those ferries are now electric, and had you asked that 5 years ago, we would probably not have believed it, but it is now happening at a great scale. So in our announcement to the Green Shipping Challenge this year, we have listed establishment of climate requirements, very concrete, that will mandate zero emissions in various segments of our domestic shipping industry in Norway. And we aim to adopt these regulations next year, 2024. And by doing that, together with increased carbon pricing at the European level, active use of support schemes and private-public partnerships, we aim to take zero-emission shipping in my country, in Norway, to a next level. At a global level, I believe that what we have achieved in IMO will speed up decarbonization of international shipping, and that has to happen. Leading Norwegian companies are now taking brave and pretty amazing investments to lead international shipping to zero. Höegh Autoliners has invested 1.2 billion in new ammonia-ready car carriers designed for global operations. So that will happen. The first vessel of the Aurora class will be delivered next summer and will be able to run on clean ammonia by 2027. And by collaborating with global ammonia producers like Yara, CEO sitting here, they are planning a pivotal role in driving global transition to sustainable green fuels. So, dear friends, in order to succeed this task of decarbonizing transport and now shipping globally, we have to make this transition, like any transition, just and equitable. Step up support to developing countries and make green shipping an opportunity in all corners of the world. Therefore, Norway will enhance our support to the IMO project Green Voyage 2050 with a total of $19 million for the period 24 to 30. So I look forward to hearing around this table how we are moving forward, and I look forward to be challenged and inspired to do even more. And thank you for your attention and for being here. John.
Jonas, thank you. Prime Minister, thank you very much for those comments. More importantly, thank you for your partnership and leadership here. It's really been one of the more encouraging, if not optimism-building exercises that I've been privileged to engage in on this frontier. And I just want to say to everybody here, the Prime Minister and I can exhort and push and cajole and in some cases twist a few arms, but it's you folks who make it happen. And you are really proving to be an extraordinary group of leaders. I have to tell you, this is one of the most promising fronts of rapid turnaround that I personally have seen in this process. And I think you have a great deal to be proud of. Not sufficient yet to rest on your laurels, but nevertheless, genuinely, you are pathfinders. You're really pace setters. And I hope you all feel appropriately good about that, even as we remain challenged. So last year, the Prime Minister and I were privileged to sort of put this idea on the table. And I don't think either of us would have anticipated that we would be meeting a year later with as much progress being made as rapidly as it is being made. I reminded everybody back then, and I'll keep hammering it now because it's one of the quickest ways to connect people to what we're doing, is that if shipping were a nation, it would be the 8th largest emitter in the world. So this is absolutely not inconsequential. It's the contrary. It's of enormous significance because you don't get to net zero global 2050. You don't get anywhere near what we have to do to keep 1.5 alive without this industry being front and center in the transition. And this has already been a big year for shipping, which I want to underscore to everybody. And I had the privilege of being in Oslo to speak at a conference earlier in the year about the IMO, the International Maritime Organization's need to update its greenhouse gas strategy. And in July, the IMO unanimously revised that strategy. And look, I mean, that's another act of important leadership, where you know you're going to be putting pressure on people, you know it's going to mean change. And obviously, in any industry, people look at their spreadsheets and they see the trend line, and most people don't want to disturb that, and we understand that. But you've been willing to be disturbers, if you will, and I think that's, again, of enormous importance. So we're obviously not here just to talk about the IMO. We still need to accelerate climate action in the decade. So we're here really to talk about that. And the conversation we're going to have is going to be very important in encouraging everybody to sort of take their steps. There is nothing like companionship on an important and tough journey. And so I think the more folks who can sound off here, sharing with us what you're prepared to do. So we have 50 new announcements that we're anticipating, along with updates on previous announcements, touching on over 15 green shipping corridors, millions in new financing to assist developing countries, consumer companies like Amazon and IKEA banding together to form the first zero-emission buyers alliance for shipping, and new zero-emission ships. So for our part, I just share with you very quickly, as we wait to hear from all of you, we're going to continue to step up our commitment across the effort, particularly on green shipping at home and across the world. We are hard at work on green shipping corridors with 3 partners, UK, Canada, and Korea. And we're very happy that the Republic of Korea is represented here by Special Envoy Cho Hong-sik, who will speak in that regard today. We're also supporting the development of green shipping corridors worldwide, with additional funding for these green shipping corridor initiation projects, which we announced last year at COP27. And we look forward to working with Denmark and Maersk McKinney Moller Center for Zero Carbon Shipping on those projects. And that project is going to help develop green shipping corridors involving developing countries, as we've seen with our friend, my friend particularly, I want to say, Prime Minister Rabuka of Fiji, it's really heartening to see so many announcements pull on the theme of cooperation and support that is fundamental to this particular project. And lastly, we're going to continue to boldly invest in the fuels of the future ourselves. And our Department of Energy is going to put $7 billion into new hydrogen hubs across the U.S., several of which propose to work with our ports in order to help hopefully unlock the next wave of maritime decarbonization. So we're all in. I know you are, and we very much look forward to hearing your input as to what you're up to, and maybe everybody can inspire everybody else, and we take that out into the COP for the next 2 weeks. So let me turn to Katherine Palmer, who's going to lead next, if she will. Thank you, Katherine.
Thank you very much for the opening remarks. We now move on to further announcements by governments, including support implementation of the IMO greenhouse gas strategy in developing countries. And I'd like to start with Prime Minister Frederiksen of Denmark. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And first of all, both of you, thank you for hosting this important session. It speaks for itself that all kind of climate action is important. But as you just said, Special Envoy, green shipping has to be on top of our agenda. And for a Danish Prime Minister being very proud of Maersk, one of our greatest companies, who are also here today, we feel a special interest in this field, because I think we are able to find some of the solutions faster on this area than in other areas. And I think it's clear for everyone now that the shipping industry needs to be part of the solutions on climate change nationally and especially globally. So we need a green shipping industry, and it needs to be globally. We have, as you have already said, been working on this for a long time, on setting the right course and the right targets in the IMO. Most recently with the new greenhouse gas strategy for international shipping. The good thing about this is that it's not an illusion, and it's nor a distant fantasy. Just a few months ago, the first green container vessel arrived in Copenhagen, and many more are on their way now. So I think what we need now is to focus on the next steps. We need to provide green fuel. We need the green corridors, as especially what I just said. I would like to underline countries like Egypt and Morocco. I think are very, very interesting partners in the green corridors. And in doing this, we will not just pave the way for a real green shipping industry, which is important in itself, but we will also create a lot of local, very good jobs, economic growth, and opportunities for all the young people, especially in Africa. And this is why we have to work, I think, during this COP for an agreement on phasing out the fossil fuels. It will be an extremely important target to set. To move on, Denmark has taken the lead to add a new cross-cutting dimension to the Green Shipping Challenge launched at COP27 to support green shipping in developing countries. And we are now able and willing to announce that we will contribute with even more money to ensure that we will be able to take the next steps, and that we are able to create reliable partnerships between North and South on this agenda as well. So I would just once again like to thank the both of you, and asking me, this is one of the areas where we are working extremely concrete. We are taking all the new measures, and therefore we will also be able to show some very interesting and concrete results. So keep on the good job, all of you, and thank you also for the private sector to be so engaged in this question.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Prime Minister Rabuka of Fiji. Thank you.
Are you good? Let's get it closer. Well, that's okay.
Thank you very much. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored to be here. I've rubbed shoulders with some of the greatest men of the world of today, and I'm meeting them again this afternoon. We are honored to be part of the discussions. In Fiji and our wider community of the Pacific countries, we have a very rich maritime heritage that stretches across the vast expanse of the blue Pacific Ocean. You'll know that the Pacific was named by Ferdinand Magellan in 1522. For us, the blue Pacific is the lifeblood of our societies, all the societies in the Pacific, connecting our islands and sustaining our economies, and connecting us with the rest of the world. In Fiji, our forebears navigated mighty outrigger canoes, discovered islands and atolls in harmony with nature and the ocean. And a great man all the way from Norway came out to prove that. Thor Heyerdahl, 1947, 1 year before I was born, came out to prove that journey was taken by our forefathers many, many years ago, probably centuries ago. Today, the vast majority of marine transport is heavily reliant on fossil fuel. We're right now reviving our shipping industry, but we want to go straight into the technology of the day as we revive the industry. And we want to make this new revival both economically and environmentally friendly, because currently the current status is very, very economically and environmentally costly for small economies in the Pacific. Your Excellencies, we must now transition to sustainable, low emissions shipping. There are challenges in the Pacific, so the transition will require coordination and significant investment. Fiji, together with our neighbors, the Marshall Islands, Kiribati, Solomon Islands, the Kingdom Tonga, Tuvalu, Vanuatu, established the Pacific Blue Shipping Partnership to transition and transform our maritime sector. The aim is to align sea transportation with our broader 2050 net zero emissions target. Earlier this month, it was a privilege for Fiji to host our fellow partnership members, where we gathered to reduce fossil fuel use in domestic shipping by 40% in 2030, 80% by 2040, and 100% by 2050. We also lay the foundation for retrofitting or replacing more than 11,000 vessels across the 7 Pacific member countries. Together with our fellow members in the Pacific Blue Shipping Partnership, we will be seeking further investment from our partners to accelerate that transition. I'm pleased that initiative will support innovation, collaboration, and transformative vision for the Blue Pacific. Thank you very much.
I'd like to introduce Presidential Special Envoy for COP28, Cho Hong-sik of the Republic of Korea. Thank you.
His Excellency Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Støre of Norway, His Excellency John Kerry, the U.S. Special Presidential Envoy for Climate, and leaders from around the world, I extend my sincere congratulations on the opening of the Green Shipping Challenge leader-level event, and it is my honor to attend this event on behalf of President Yoon Suk-yeol of the Republic of Korea and deliver Korea's message of sincere friendship and greetings. The latest IPCC report stated a stern warning that the remaining carbon budget for limiting global warming of 1.5 degrees Celsius is only 500 gigatons. The report also analyzed that considering the annual carbon emissions, our climate action in the next decade will determine the fate of the Earth. Furthermore, last September, WMO released United in Science 2023 report, where it reiterated that this year's first half saw an increase in greenhouse gas emission from the last years, and without additional action, the current policies are expected to cause global warming of 2.8 degrees Celsius over this century. If we cannot put a brake on global warming right now, it will be the future generations who have contributed the least to climate change to suffer the devastating consequences the most. Under these grave circumstances, it is only fitting that the international community is sustaining collaborative efforts through the Green Shipping Challenge, which aims to boost the production and supply of carbon-free fuels in international shipping, facilitate the demonstration of eco-friendly vessels, and forge green shipping corridors. As a leader in shipping and shipbuilding, Korea will play a leading role in sharing and proliferating green technologies and experience, and will actively support the international shipping industry's decarbonization efforts by building green shipping corridors. To this end, the Republic of Korea and United States have agreed to collaborate to establish green shipping corridors by building the infrastructure for low and zero carbon fuel supply and demonstrating and deploying vessels powered by low and zero carbon fuels in the sea between the port of Busan in Korea and the major ports in the west coast of the United States. During the World Climate Action Summit of COP28, the Republic of Korea and the United States announced their next steps in bilateral collaboration on green shipping corridors. The Republic of Korea and the US have completed the pre-feasibility study evaluating multiple factors, including cargo flows, renewable fuel availability, vessel types, and applicable policy for green shipping corridors. The collective efforts of the two countries have produced a report illustrating numerous potential routes to forge green shipping corridors. The considered routes include routes for container carriers and car carriers that will run on green methanol or green ammonia. All stakeholders will continue the development by conducting a detailed feasibility study in 2024 and selecting 1 to 3 final routes that will be tested through pilot and demonstration projects. I hope today's event will serve as an opportunity to gather wisdom to tackle the climate crisis and induce global participation. The Republic of Korea will actively participate in the international community's efforts in implementing the Paris Agreement. Thank you.
I'd like to introduce Minister of Energy and Mines, Tom Alwindo of Namibia. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Let me also thank the Prime Minister Stroh and Special Envoy Kerry for the work you are doing in this very important area. And just to say we are happy as Namibia to participate in the discussion. Because for us in Namibia, we have plans to start manufacturing synthetic fuels with an ambition to produce up to 15 million tons of green hydrogen by 2050. And to deliver on this ambition, Namibia, is in concert with our global partners, will need to develop substantial new port infrastructure. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I think we all have come to understand that shipping is the lifeblood of the global economy, with the consumption of marine fuels accounting for over 5% of global oil and 2.5% of global CO2 emissions. So it's quite an important sector for the global economy. And while green methanol and green ammonia are emerging synthetic fuels that will decarbonize the shipping sector itself, green corridors are necessary to ensure alignment of efforts as we seek to decarbonize the entire value chains to ensure we effectively tackle emission from scope 1, 2, and 3 activities. We also know that the Bloomberg New Energy Finance, they estimate that the compliance cost for 2 of the largest container shipping companies in Europe alone will exceed €5 billion by 2030. Therefore, reducing emission is relevant from a balance sheet perspective as well. And so it should be as we strive to price carbon appropriately. The International Marine Organization updated its ambitions for the shipping sector to require carbon neutrality by 2050. And these measures, coupled with the fact that global shipping is projected to expand by 25% by 2050, it really highlights the pressing needs for the shipping sector to replace the traditional CO2-intensive heavy fuel and marine gas oil with low-carbon fuel alternatives. Now, we also know that 12 ports around the world account for 40% of the worldwide ship bunkering. And Singapore alone accounts for 16% of this. And we need to grow this portfolio. And the introduction of green corridors, specific routes on which stakeholders across the value chain collectively agree to adjust bunkering infrastructure such that vessels along the route are powered by green fuels, will be critical to the bunkering overhaul that is necessary for the effective adoption of synthetic fuels. And we as Namibia are willing to answer that call. Not only would these corridors decarbonize important shipping routes, but they will also ensure investment and development of green bunkering infrastructure that would not otherwise exist in some of our countries, helping us enhance our gross fixed capital formation and also diversify our export and economic structures. And this is why, on the margin of COP28, our green hydrogen program that resides under the ministry that I oversee will sign a letter of intent with the Maersk McKinney Moller Institute for zero carbon shipping to capture our mutual intent to conduct a pre-feasibility study on green maritime corridors from Namibia to the world. And this will mark a key commitment to Namibia, making to develop green shipping corridors while championing sustainable economic development for Namibia and also Southern Africa. And therefore, we really want to thank you for having invited us to be part of this. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We will now move on to announcements from the private sector around aligning the shipping sector with a 1.5-degree trajectory. I'd like to ask our private sector announcements if you could be mindful of time when you make your announcements, please. We will start this with Vincent Clark, the CEO of AP Moller Maersk. Thank you.
Thank you. Dear Ministers, Special Presidential Envoy, it's a real pleasure to be here shoulder to shoulder with some of our largest competitors and jointly show our commitment to decarbonizing shipping. All of us here are making a lot of progress, and I am very honored to share some of the latest development in Maersk's journey towards sustainable shipping. For us, 2023 was a real landmark moment in our green transition with the introduction of Lower Maersk, built in Korea. As the world's first methanol-fueled container vessel, it was launched the 14th of September with the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen as her godmother. Laura is the first of its kind, but she will be the first of many. In the coming years, the industry will take delivery of more than 180 green fuel-enabled vessels. Now that we cracked the chicken and egg conundrum on green shipping, we, of course, are in dire needs of green fuel. Here we have also witnessed incredible progress in the past months. On the 22nd of November, we just announced the shipping industry's first large-scale agreement for green methanol with the production of 500,000 tons by 2026. This, with one agreement, essentially quintupled the global production of green methanol. An important milestone for us as a company, but a baby step for the whole industry if you think that to reach our goal and decarbonize the shipping industry at pace by 2030, it is only 7 years away, we will need around 21 million tons of green fuels. We cannot do it alone, and we need your help to send the right signals to the markets and scale up the so much needed production of green marine fuel. The industry needs a green balance fee to balance expenses at supply and demand sides in a way that does not exert excessive inflationary pressure on global economies, which could potentially hinder trade. Our approach proposes distributing the additional cost of green fuel across the entire spectrum of fossil fuels used in shipping. Moreover, we believe that the revenues generated from the green balance fee should extend beyond just covering its own cost. A significant portion should be allocated to a dedicated research, development, and deployment. Additionally, investments in developing countries are essential to ensure a just transition that leaves no one behind. This proposal, included in a joint industry declaration in which we are advocating for adoption of the International Maritime Organization next year, is a critical measure in ensuring that green fuels become competitive within a challenging economic landscape. In pursuit of these goals, we have entrusted the World Shipping Council with a crucial task. We expect them to deliver a clear and comprehensive proposal prior to the next MEPC meeting. This proposal should detail the structure and operational mechanics of the green balance fee mechanism, ensuring that it is both effective and equitable. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to introduce Rodolphe Sade, CEO of CMA CGM.
Thank you. Dear Mr. U.S. Presidential Special Envoy, dear Prime Ministers, Your Excellencies, climate change is not a matter of borders or competition. I'm extremely pleased to be here with you for what I'm sure will remain a milestone in our decarbonization journey. At CMA CGM, we have decided to be an active and front-runner part of the solution from some years already. We have been pioneers on many fronts: LNG-propelled ships, the northern routes, and the plastic ban. We have invested more than $15 billion in decarbonizing our fleet, and we will operate 120 vessels capable of burning alternative sustainable fuels by 2028. We are energy agnostic because we believe we will need more than just one solution. We are working hard on the sobriety of our ships, and we have developed powerful AI models to reduce our fuel consumption. Today, I'm pleased to announce that our group is set to reduce its CO2 emissions by 1 million tons this year versus last year. Yet, the access to greener alternative fuels remain a big obstacle. They are too expensive and quantities are largely insufficient, to say the least. Putting in place the adequate international pricing mechanism under the umbrella of IMO is a decisive acceleration factor. To be successful in this difficult but essential path, we need to be on the same page and build strong coalitions of public and private stakeholders. I'm referring to shipping lines, governments, and public bodies, but also our customers. We'll need them to join us and participate on this decarbonizing journey. Above all, we need a robust IMO framework to help us aim for the upper targets of the IMO trajectory: minus 30% emissions by 2030, minus 80 by 2040, and net zero in 2050. Thank you.
I'd like to introduce Søren Toft, CEO of MSC. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dear Prime Ministers, dear U.S. Special Presidential Envoy, Mr. Kerry, distinguished guests. Is this better? Okay. For the MSC Group, it's also an honor to be here today at what we consider an unprecedented moment for our industry. As one of the leading ocean carriers, we already endeavor to be a steward of the world's oceans, using our maritime experience to invest effectively in ship design, cutting-edge technologies, and digital applications to improve our energy efficiency. In the past 3 years, we have invested more than $15 billion to do exactly that. We have been focused on improving energy efficiency in our fleet of more than 800 ships, with a target to reach net zero decarbonization by 2050. But I also believe it's only right that today we lay down more markers for ourselves and for the industry with today's declaration. I sincerely believe the green agenda is not something we should compete on. It's something we all should collaborate on. At MSC, we are pursuing a multi-fuel approach, partly because of the lack of availability, and we are deploying several types of net zero energy sources, such as LNG, synthetic LNG, retrofitting now ships to green methanol, and maybe one day ammonia. All of these will propel the MSC fleet, when the fuels are ready, at scale. We also support, and we want to make that clear today, that we need to see an end to the delivery of fossil fuel vessels only. And to underscore this, we have already ordered more than 100 dual-fuel vessels as part of our fleet renewal strategy. The collaboration should also encourage a level playing field. for all of us, and as part of this, we must get to a global greenhouse gas pricing for our industry. Funds from these pricing must go into targeted research and development so that we can really, at speed, develop the fuels that the industry needs. At the end of the day, we are ship operators. As MSC, we buy the vessels, we buy the fuels that powers them to provide our customers with the service. We don't build the vessels, and neither do we, at least until further, produce the fuels that powers them. This means collaborating and working together, not just amongst us, but amongst all stakeholders. We need governments ready to help, as they have done today, not only with this declaration, but with fair, aligned and global policies. We need energy providers to step up and provide the fuels we need at scales. As you have heard, ships are being ordered in the plentiful. And we need suppliers to develop new technologies that we don't know today to better harness these fuels and the efficiency of these fuels. I consider today an important step in our net zero journey for us and for all present here, and we need to expand this collaboration globally and more deeply. We can only achieve our net zero by 2050 by working together, not by competing. Thank you.
I'd like to welcome Rolf Haben Jansen, CEO of HapagLloyd.
Thank you very much, Your Excellencies. Also for us, an honor to be here and very good to hear also the initiatives from everyone around this table. And I can also only echo that this is not about competition, but it's about doing things together, also because we need to build scale. We at HapagLloyd are very much behind the targets that have been set by the IMO, and I would echo what Mr. Sade said is that we will definitely also aim for the higher end of the ambitions that have been set. One point that I maybe want to call out on the discussions that are taking place at the IMO are how to look at emissions. I think it's very important that we continue to look at well to wake, and make a proper life cycle analysis when we look at fuels, because that's important to take into account when we look at the future regulatory framework, because only if we do that, then the investment decisions that we will make will be aligned with the climate interests. A bit about what we do at Hapag, very comparable to what was already said. I think we do 4 things. One is we renew our fleet and replace older ships by ships that can sail on green fuels. Also, we have invested billions into that. The second thing is that we retrofit our ships to reduce fuel consumption, because that also helps. The third thing is that we try to redesign our networks, and I believe all of us can still do that, as some of the designs as we know them today are not necessarily the most efficient, and by doing that we can improve asset intensity and actually reduce the amount of energy that we need. And finally, also we look at green fuels where we are agnostic like the others. We do quite a bit on biofuel. We also look at liquid gas, but will in future certainly also use green methanol and also ammonia. And I'm also pleased to say that we at Hapag in this year also for the first time have managed to reduce our absolute emissions with about 5% compared to last year, despite the fact that we have deployed more allocation than we did last year. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'd just like to remind our remaining speakers to be cognizant of time, and if you could keep your interventions quite short and concise, that would be really appreciated. Our next speaker is Lars Christopherson, CEO of Wallenius Wilhelmsen.
Thank you, Prime Minister and their Excellencies. We are very happy to be here today together with our dear colleagues and demonstrating that decarbonization is not competition but collaboration. We in Wallenius Wilhelmsen, we are working with moving cars and heavy equipment around the world. We are moving half of the cars Korea bring to the US, and if we are not able to decarbonize, you will not be able to get a zero-emission car in the US. That is why we have set an ambition to develop our first green corridor by 2027. And that corridor is both by land and sea. We are now investing in zero-emission trucking. We are now investing in zero-emission power in our terminals. And not least, we are now launching a fleet of vessels that will go on net zero emissions from 2027. On top of that, we are experiencing with new technology, and on behalf of EU and in a big partnership, we are now testing wind at scale, with the ambition to introduce a vessel by 2025 that can have wind as its primary energy source, and we will in 2024 launch the first vessel with a full-scale sail on top. As you understand, decarbonization will not be incremental. We need to think of this as the fleet, and that's why we need to pool our efforts. So we need, in IMO and international regulations, to make sure that we incentivize these bold steps that my colleagues and ourselves are doing on single vessels, so that we can see our fleet as one pool and not make regulations only related to one vessel. Thank you for the attention.
Thank you. Thank you. Our next speaker, I'd like to invite Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem, the chairman of DP World. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to be with you here today. Global trade has lifted 1 billion people out of poverty. It unlocks opportunities in developing countries. It has the potential to shape sustainable, resilient future for all. And COP28 is the right platform to put global trade at the center of the climate change conservation. We must generate more collaboration and partnership between industry and government to deliver equitable net zero future. We in DP World taking meaningful steps to tackle climate change by reducing our carbon footprint. Last year at COP27, DP World signed up for a Green Shipping Challenge and committed to cutting our carbon emission by nearly 700,000 tons over 5 years. At our ports and terminals, we are making real progress against this commitment. This includes investment in electrification of our equipment and alternative fuel use. In Brazil, we have electrified all our container handling cranes at the port of Santos, which are powered by renewable energy. And right here in Dubai, our engineers at Jebel Ali have converted our diesel fuel terminal tractors into electric-powered vehicles. Beyond just our port operation, we have invested £250 million in the hybrid electric P&O Pioneer feeder. With a reduced fuel consumption of 40%, it is the most energy-efficient ship in the English Channel. We are also investing in 4 new dual-fuel methanol-ready container feeder vessels. These initiatives demonstrate our commitment to cutting emissions and sustainable practices. Today, I'm proud to say that we are on track to reach the target of cutting 700,000 tons by 2027. Achieving a net zero future requires greater collaboration between industry and government. We need to work together to build a resilient supply chain and remove trade barriers. Public-private partnership is necessary to create an environment for low-risk investments. Decarbonization is not the responsibility of one sector or region. It is a global effort. And the Green Shipping Challenge is an important platform to make this a reality. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'd like to introduce Katherine McGregor, the CEO of NG. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, and thank you for inviting me to talk very briefly to confirm that NG as an energy company is resolutely committed to provide all of you at our scale with the green electrons and the green molecules that will be absolutely key to play a key role to decarbonize your sector. Green electrons, green molecule, and of course, associated infrastructure. By green molecules, we mean biomethane, biomethanol, bio-based molecules, but also e-molecules, which will be derived from hydrogen, for which we will need indeed a lot of those green electrons. I will very quickly zoom in on one project that we are developing in France, in Le Havre, which is called Salamandre. It is a partnership. I think we've talked a lot about the importance of partnership, and this is a partnership with Rodolphe here with the CMA-CGM, a very beautiful project which actually is going to be a laureate at the COP28 as Energy Change Makers Initiatives. And this project is really interesting because it is able to use non-recyclable waste through pyrogasification, so high temperature processes, which allow to produce 2 second-generation biomethane. And we are doing this project in Le Havre, hoping to provide 200,000 tons of biomethane by 2028. 200,000 is very small in respective of what is needed, but it is a brick to the problem, a brick to the solution that we are bringing. This decarbonization process is indeed effective. It will replace about 80% of the CO2 emission if we were to use normal fossil natural gas. So this is, frankly, a very strong decarbonization lever. And it is very interesting because it is also, as part of a circular economy, using an outlet for local waste streams, which today is not recyclable. And finally, I would add that through this process, we will produce CO2, which will be hopefully also reused in a side project to produce e-kerosene. So here you have a very virtuous process indeed. So looking forward for this project to be developed to help CMA-CGM and hopefully many more to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mark Hutchinson, the CEO of Fortescue Energy.
Thank you very much. Great to be here today. And we have some good news for the Green Shipping Challenge. Fortescue is one of the world's largest iron ore miners, and we ship over 200 million tons of iron ore around the world using over 90 very large oil carriers, which make over 1,000 journeys. Unfortunately, the vessels produce about 3 million tons of emissions, so we're part of the problem. So we decided 2 years ago to do something about it, and we set our company on a journey to fully decarbonize our industrial mining operations. That's real zero, not net zero, by 2030. So we're the first heavy industrial company around the world to have a fully costed decarbonization plan which eliminate all of our Scope 1 and Scope 2. However, as we were going through this exercise, we found that the equipment manufacturers just weren't on the same schedule as us, so we decided to do the technology ourselves. Firstly with the trucks, the trains, and then with the ships. We also decided to take a major step in to be a major producer of green hydrogen, green ammonia, and we wanted to show the world we could do it on a global basis and at scale, and we've actually just reached our first 3 projects at final investment decision last week, so very excited. But shipping's a problem. And how do we actually decarbonize our ships, and how do we create the demand for the green ammonia? So 18 months ago, we decided to develop the world's first ammonia-fueled ship to show the world there's an alternative to dirty, polluting bunkering fuel. So really good news today is that the Fortescue Green Pioneer, it's a 75-meter vessel. The first ammonia-fueled ship is sitting here proudly in the waters of the Dubai Harbour Marina. And it's really to show the world that it can be done. So you're all welcome to come down. It's going to be here during COP, and we'll announce it with our chairman tomorrow. So please come along and have a look. We took a bunch of engineers around the world and innovators and really started to work on the systems, the processes to make sure it was safe and to show that green ammonia can actually be used on a ship. The breakthrough really came after we developed it for our trains, and we then found a way to do it on a 4-stroke engine. So we've now got a dual fuel ship, which we proudly now can show the world. After the COP, we will take it back to Singapore, where we're working with the maritime departments there, who have been fantastic, to actually get the ship finally fully commissioned, which we think will happen in the first few weeks of the new year, and also the first ammonia transport. So after that, we'll have the vessel available for training, It is a pilot vessel though, and we do intend fully to decarbonize all our fleet, all our mining fleet over the next few years. What we found though is that as we move so fast to actually get something done here, that the enablers just aren't there. The ports, the governments, the regulators. In fact, if we were commissioned and were able to sail the ship into Dubai Harbour, it wouldn't be allowed because the regulation just doesn't exist. So we think actually the regulatory side is a massive limitation to decarbonisation of the shipping industry, and we'd encourage that to develop very quickly. So we think there's a huge opportunity for green ammonia in shipping, and we invite everybody to come down to the marine and have a look at the ship. Very welcome. If you are interested, come and see me afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A slight, because we're slightly behind on time, so I'd like to now move to President Emmanuel Macron of France. Thank you.
So as you can see, I'm not really President Emmanuel Macron. So he has another engagement, but we'll try to see him right after. So, and as I know that Special Envoy John Kerry has also other commitment, I will be quite short, but telling you, of course, that you have for the next 2 minutes settle with me and not President Macron. Sorry. But I'm from a beautiful region in France, Brittany, that John Kerry knows quite well. It's a great pleasure to be here, and thank you very much for all the partners and all the people who made this event possible, including the US, John Kerry, the Prime Minister of Norway, of Denmark, Fiji. We know each other now quite well, but the representative of Namibia and Korea. Sometimes our citizens are asking us what is how is it useful, this kind of big event, the COP? And this event show that the COP are really useful in terms of engagement, in terms of mobilization, and that there is also continuity, currents between COP27 and COP28. So I really wanted to thank you for the engagement, and just to tell you that we will organize with Costa Rica in 2025 in France, the United Nations Ocean Conference. And of course, the priority will be to protect the ocean, to make sure that we fight against the plastic pollution, fight against illegal fishing, making sure we fight also against like the start of the deep sea mining. But at the core of those discussions, there will be the decarbonization of the maritime transport. And as you all know, shipping is the backbone of our economies, and this industry shows the complexity of the transition. It shows that we need to make sure that there is a mobilization of the public, the private, the shipbuilder, the ship owner, the port, and that we need to work together to achieve the IMO objective, a reduction of emission of 30% by 2030 and 100 by 2050. And we need to make 3 commitments that we all share right now, and I'd like also to underline here. The first one is to make sure that the shipping company, and thank you very much all of you for being here, include in their strategy the target that I just mentioned in terms of emission reduction. The second one is to make sure that we have the investment plan for the sector by the Nice conference in 2025 to accelerate the research and development, to share technology, to develop clean fuel like hydrogen or biofuel, and make this commitment credible. And to do so, and we heard the demands of the companies, we need to make sure that the government are doing their part. Thank you very much for your commitment. Norway, Denmark, United States, Fiji, Republic of Korea, and Namibia. And I can announce that France, 2 days ago, has announced an investment plan for the sector of 800 million for the innovation, plus the creation of a public-private investment fund of 1.5 billion euros, including 500 million of public money. And we already had commitment from a shipping company. I really would like to thank CMA CGM and Roller Sade for the commitment for this fund of 200 million, and you're all welcome to contribute to this fund because we need to mutualize, we need to mobilize, and making sure that we share technology and accelerate the pace. Third, of course, we need to put a price on the carbon, and this is what we're going to do, and to make sure of something, that we give a clear advantage to green shipping. And the last one, and I'll allow my dear Brittany friend to leave after that, and that we need to make sure that we not leave anyone behind. That's why we need a just transition. We need to support developing economies. We need to support small islands, and we need to make sure that we hear the voice, for example, of the Pacific and all those economies, to make sure that they're not cost on the importation by the sea, and that those economies are not paying a higher price. So, dear friends, dear colleagues, our roadmap is clear. We know what is our next port is Nice 2025. We have 1.5 years to make this possible. Thank you for the mobilization, and thank you for your attention.
My apologies. I just wanted to excuse myself to everybody, and I do apologize. I'll just say about my good friend Brittany that when he says we invite you to contribute, the phone call is coming, folks. Let me just, this has really been exciting and way beyond, don't you think? I mean, just amazing what is happening. So I just want to say thank you. I apologize. I had an event with Mike Bloomberg, and he moved the time up. And since he's helping us close 500 coal plants in America, I want to be there. So thank you.
Thank you very much. We still have 2 more additional announcements, so I hope if you can stay, please do stay. I'd like to now move to Svein Toren Holsøfer, the CEO of Yara, and Andreas Enger, the CEO of Höegh Autoliners, for their announcement. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and Excellencies. Look, this is about walking the talk. And last year we were given a challenge and clear marching orders from Secretary Kerry and Prime Minister Gahr Støre. So I don't think I would dare to come back here without them having any real announcements, and we do. So 2 weeks ago we announced the world's first cross-border carbon capture and storage agreement, binding one between Netherlands and Norway. So we produce clean ammonia in Netherlands, and we store the carbon on the Norwegian continental shelf. And I want to thank Prime Minister Gahr Støre for your political leadership to drive this forward. It's a great example of public-private partnership to make this possible. In the last year, we've also announced the world's first electric container ship, autonomous. It's already in operation. And yesterday we announced the world's first clean ammonia-powered, fully clean ammonia-powered container ship that will go in a corridor between Norway and Germany, the first green corridor. So this is all about collaboration and cooperation between political, societal, and national borders. And on the topic of collaboration and providing fuel, so we as an ammonia producer, we need to work throughout the value chain. And one example of that is what we're doing together with Höegh Autoliners, with Andreas Enger.
Yeah, and just very short on that, we launched a multi-fuel vessel, ordered a series of multi-fuel vessels 2 years ago. The first is coming next summer, with the support from Yara on fuel and with the support from our engine suppliers from Hyundai Heavy Industries. We've now both been able to confirm that the vessels delivered in 2027 will get ammonia engines from Hyundai, and we will get fuel. That, I think, very importantly, takes away some of the doubt that has been around ammonia, whether the engines are there and whether the fuel is there. And working with Yara, who has 100 years of experience with ammonia, we also have a good grip on the safety issue. So we are moving, and we're moving forward quickly, and we will be able to fulfill our pledge to the First Mover Coalition of running 5% carbon-free well ahead of time.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to go to Kara Hurst, the Chief Sustainability Officer of Amazon.
The invitation to share what we're doing. Also, As you may be aware, Amazon's business includes both online and physical retail, but also many transportation, logistics, and cloud computing. We have over 1.5 million employees worldwide, and we are very much committed to ambitious and bold climate action. 4 years ago, we committed to the Climate Pledge, which is our commitment to be net zero carbon by 2040, 10 years ahead of the Paris Agreement. And we committed to this and issued an invitation for others to join. We now have over 450 companies which have joined us in the Climate Pledge. That crosses 56 different industries across 38 different countries. So it's quite a global effort. And one of the things that we're doing there is we are trying to send demand signals across many different industries, one of which is renewable energy. We ourselves are 90% operating on renewable energy globally now across our footprint. That also includes a lot of economic development along with it. So with our portfolio, we're the largest corporate purchaser and have been of renewable energy in the world for the last 3 years. We have a portfolio representing more than 26 gigawatts of renewable energy capacity, and it's generated over $12 billion of investment in communities and over 39,000 jobs. So we want to send these types of demand signals with that type of portfolio, and we're clear that we've been accelerating the adoption of new solutions. We want to also bring that to ocean shipping. So we believe we have a strong role in creating a demand for zero carbon services and fuels, and want to send a signal also to the rest of the value chain that we will invest in that. We believe for this to be successful, there has to be enough demand for us to make an investment and for it to be scaled economically. And we would love governments to be setting policies that enable this transition and many more companies to join us to make these bold commitments for zero carbon ocean and air freight. So 2 years ago, we worked with Special Envoy Kerry to launch the First Movers Coalition at COP26 and announced our commitment to use ships with zero-emission fuels for at least 10% of the volume of our goods shipped internationally by 2030 and 100% by 2040. So we continue to explore and test sustainable innovations across freight and air and ocean transport to reduce our emissions on our longest routes. And we've purchased bio-based fuel services to help reduce carbon emissions now. For example, to reduce our emissions in this sector, we're partnering with Maersk by purchasing their eco-delivery shipping services using waste cooking oil instead of traditional shipping fuels. And we've also invested in technologies needed for longer-term zero-emission solutions. We have a $2 billion climate pledge fund, and we've invested in 23 companies to date out of that fund, including Ahmed, a startup developing ammonia-to-power system, hopefully eventually powering a cargo ship. But we're excited to share, since our last convening here, we've launched the Zero Emission Maritime Buyers Alliance, also known as ZEMBA, that is expediting the delivery of zero-emission ocean services with our co-founders at Patagonia and Chibo and the Aspen Institute. And through this alliance, we're taking another major step to unblock challenges and accelerate the commercial deployment of zero-emission shipping, enabling economies of scale and helping to minimize maritime emissions. And so within 6 months of this launch, in September 2023, we've added 25 new members and announced our first request for proposals for zero-emission shipping services, and delivery of these services are expected to start in 2025. So through this tender, Amazon and our partners are seeking ocean shipping services powered by zero-emission fuels for over 600,000 20-foot containers over a 3-year period. And I want to share that we'll be hosting a lunch in partnership with the International Chamber of Commerce during this COP on December 4th. So for any other interested companies, we invite you to join us, and we hope to see the number of our members grow exponentially. So through these efforts, Amazon and other cargo owners involved in these initiatives, we hope to send really strong demand signals for zero carbon fuels to stimulate production, technology development, and hopefully price reduction. Thank you.
Thank you very much to all our speakers, and congratulations on your announcements. I'd now like to hand back to Prime Minister Støre for closing remarks. Thank you.
Very short closing remarks. I think what we have heard now serve as closing remarks. I'm happy and impressed to see that the initiative we took last year, it was not about regulation or legislation or by having sticks, but there have been a lot of carrots coming out of this. And I would salute the private industry for ingenuity, creativity, and the way we work together. I think Svein Tore Holsæter of Yara, who I meet frequently in the Norwegian private-public dialogue, is illustrating how we can, play each other good here. And I think what you have been saying across the table from industry, that this is not about, you are fierce competitors, I know, but this is not about competition, this is about collaboration, building an infrastructure upon which you will compete. I take that for granted. But I hope that when we come back for COP29, we can fill on more commitments. So for government representatives and for industry, thank you, and let's keep the pace and have a good rest of the COP.
Thank you very much. And can I just ask that everybody exits via this door at this end of the room? Thank you very much.